I wish to present before you this topic and elaborate it basically. So this term contract, it is explained and defined under section 2 clause H of the Indian Contract Act 1872. It means that it is an agreement between two or more parties which is basically enforceable by the law. There can be agreements, but the contract is enforceable by law. That is the main thing, main essential of that. Now, what are the other essentials that are there under a contract? Number one, as the definition it simply says, one is agreement. There must be an agreement and there must be two or more parties. We can't have an agreement with ourselves, so we need two or more parties. Other essentials are that these two parties are called the promisor and the promisee. One who promises is called a promisor, and the one to whom we promise that we are going to do this and this under the contract is called a promisee. And this is defined under section 2, clause C. Next is lawful consideration and lawful object. See, in these legal terms, we need to have a contract only on a lawful object. Now, what is consideration? What is lawful consideration? Both of these are defined under section 23 of the Indian Contract Act 1872. But what is this consideration? This consideration is what? That when let's assume I give something in return what someone else is doing for me. Someone that we give in return something, like, and let's just take an example. I sign a contract with a person that I am going to get 4 bottles of Coke from him that he's going to manufacture for me. And when I sign a contract, he's going to give me the bottles of Coke. But what am I going to give him? I might be giving him money. I might be giving him something else. So any physical thing, any good is also considered under consideration, and that comes under section 23. Next is the most important thing, that is consent, and a consent needs to be free. Free means with a free will, without a certain things that I'm going to explain. Under section 14, we define free consent. There are a few pointers that we need to keep in mind, that the consent will be free only when these points are not there. Number one is coercion, and it is defined under section 15 of the Indian Contract Act. Now, what is coercion? Coercion is something when when someone might want to get a thing done forcefully, or maybe let's take an example that someone tells you to do something on a gunpoint. You will be doing that, but did you do it with a free will? Was your consent there? No, it was not there. On a gunpoint, our consent is never free. All right. Next is section 16, that is undue influence. Undue influence is something when we influence someone and take his undue advantage. Let's take an example. X is a teacher and Y is a student. Now, Y tells X that, ma'am or sir, I want to do this or XYZ, whatever thing. And that teacher influences the student that if you go by these means, that might not be right. That might not be the ones that were expected to be done. If they go by those means, the consent was there. The student said, yes, I will do it. But he was so much influenced by that teacher that he did all those things as the teacher wanted. But his consent was there, but it wasn't free. It was under undue influence of that X, right? Next is fraud, which is mentioned under section 17 of the Indian Contract Act. Fraud, it's a very common term that we listen like here or there. But what is it exactly? This fraud is something when something was supposed to be told, but the fact was there and it was supposed to be told, but it was concealed. Let's take an example. I want to buy a horse and the buyer tells me that the horse is very good, it runs very fast and this and that and is very healthy. But actually, when I bought that horse, he did not tell me that this horse cannot see with one eye. That is fraud, which was supposed to be told, but he did not tell me. That is fraud. Next is section 18, which is misrepresentation. Misrepresentation is when we represent something that we are actually not. I, being a female, represent myself as a male and cheat someone. These days, we see so many males or females who misrepresent themselves and they tell something else to the person, just to grab money or something like that. That is an example of misrepresentation, representing something that we are not actually. And the last one is under section 21, that is mistake. Mistake may be something like we type the contract, and under that contract, let's assume we want to type an amount for a payment, and the amount was 10 lakh rupees. But by mistake, we type 1 lakh rupee in that contract. And so the consent of the person who is signing was there, and he thought that it is 10 lakh rupees, but actually it was 1 lakh. So we'll consider it under mistake. So all these factors, when we count, are under they are not free under the consent. And in a contract, when we are signing or when we are getting into a contractual obligation or any and other thing like that, these things are an essential for a contract. So thank you very much. I hope you got this topic and see you next time. Thanks a lot.